I'm going to break down a few concepts dealing with experiments here. First of all, we need to know the difference between an observational study and an experiment. That's the two, I guess, big ideas that we'll use throughout the whole entire course. Some things we'll be looking at will be an observational study. Some things will be experiments. The difference is, in an experiment, you have a treatment that the testers are actually imposing on the subjects. Observational studies, you're just observing what's already going on, basically. So in this case, we're working with experiments. So our example says 100 young men aged between 18 and 30 have agreed to participate in an experiment to test which diet is better for blood pressure, diet A or diet B. So the first type of experiment we're going to talk about, and I'm just basically hitting the big ideas here, is a completely randomized experiment. Okay, where we take our 100 people, 100 men, and we randomly allocate them into two groups, or randomly assign. We got 50 guys who will do diet A, and 50 guys that'll do diet B. Okay. Now, a note that a difference here, a lot of people confuse this with a simple random sample. And a simple random sample is dealing with an observational study. In other words, you're dealing with some type of population, and you're taking a random sample from that population. In this case, in an experiment, we're randomly allocating into treatment groups. So these are our two treatments. They're either going to take diet A or diet B, and those we're imposing that treatment. We're having them either use diet A or diet B. So at the end of that, we will compare blood pressures. Okay, and that's basically a completely randomized experiment. Compare blood pressures. Okay, now I'm going to show you this statement. That's a good statement to remember. It's going to help you understand the big concepts behind study design, which is what chapter 5 is, at least for experiments. So it says, control what you can, block on what you can't control, and randomize the rest. Okay, so what that means is, suppose we're doing this study and we say, well, what else affects blood pressure that might be having an effect on our results besides diet A and diet B? So maybe we say whether they work out or not. So let's suppose at first that we can control whether we have them work out or not. We were going to tell them some of them to work out, some of them not to work out. So that would look like something like this. We start just like before with our 100 men. And we're going to randomly assign, and there's another presentation on how to do random assignment. But we're going to randomly assign these into 4 groups. This is going to be diet A and work out. This will be diet A and not work out. So in other words, we're going to have 25 subjects in each group. This will be B and work out. This will be B and not working out. Okay. So again, we got 25 subjects in each group. And then at the end, we'll just compare blood pressures from all 4 groups. And we'll see, kind of get an idea of both. We're mostly interested in diet A and diet B. But we'll get an idea also of how exercise affected it. Okay. Now that's if you can control whether they work out or not. And in most cases, and even this example, it would be hard to control whether somebody works out or not unless you had the 100 subjects in some kind of camp or something. Otherwise, if they're living their lives normally, you can't control that fact. So let's say that in this group of 100 men, we asked them, do you currently work out? And let's say 30 of them work out and 70 do not. Okay, no, that's do not. So what we have to do, if we can't control whether they work out or not, which is probably more realistic in this example, what we're going to do is block. So what blocking means is we start out with our 100 people. And before we randomly assign, we're not randomly assigning these. We just have 30 people who work out and 70 people who don't work out. Okay, and I'm just giving an outline. This outline is not very, you don't need to just do an outline for these types of problems, but it gives you the big picture for this presentation at least. So now what I'm going to do, this is no random assignment here. This is just how they are. These 30 work out, these 70 do not work out. So what you're going to do is randomly assign, out of those 30, you're going to get 15 to try diet A. And then 15 to try diet B. Okay. So what I like to kind of use the expression here is we're comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges at this point. So if working out does affect it, then we can split them up from the beginning and say these guys work out, these guys do not. So of the people who work out, half of them got drug A, half of them are diet A, half of them got diet B, and we try to see out of that group, we compare their blood pressure. So same thing over here. You'll have 35 to get A and 35 to get B. And what we're going to do here is we're going to compare inside the groups. If I'm working with apples and apples, I'm going to see, okay, out of the workout people, let's compare the blood pressures of diet A and diet B. Same thing here. We're going to compare those. And I guess really you could at least look for some similarities and differences among the people who work out and do not work out at the end. So you could compare them at the end. But in these groups is what we're really interested in. Okay. When we compared just the workout people who worked out, which one had better blood pressure, diet A or diet B? When we looked at the people who did not work out, who had the higher or the better blood pressure, diet A or diet B. Okay, so that's what blocking. That's the big picture behind blocking. So let's go back to this. Control what you can. So the first time we said if we could control whether they worked out or not, we would. We would tell some people to work out, tell some people not to work out, and that would just be, we'd have 4 treatment groups. Okay. If we couldn't control, we had to block. Well, that's what we did. We couldn't determine whether they worked out or not, so we blocked them and compared apples and apples and oranges to oranges. We looked at people who did work out and compared diet A and diet B, and then we looked at the people who didn't work out and compared diet A and diet B. Now, what the rest says is, and randomize the rest. So, what if there were other factors that might have an effect on blood pressure? Maybe on the day that we test their blood pressure, the amount of sleep that they got. Maybe the amount of sleep that they have affects what their blood pressure is. Well, that's something that we really can't control. We really can't block it either. We can't, put a block on how many people are going to sleep well the night before they get tested. So what we mean by randomize the rest is when we do random allocation in our groups, we're basically hoping that it levels off those. In other words, some people that slept well or slept a lot are in a group, along with the people who didn't sleep a lot were in the same group. And so some of those in each group. So that's what this mantra says, is control what you can. And remember this, control what you can, block on what you can't control, and then hopefully randomizing will level out everything else.